Hey guys, what's up? This is me, Sean from TechTrader.com, Music Constant SMP, and I have my kind of first, not even first impressions, but kind of an overall overview of the Moto 360. It's kind of just a real good tool, hopefully is what I'm providing you guys, of how the Moto 360 has been treating me for the past 2 months that I've had it, and whether or not it makes sense to either go out and buy an Android Wear device now, or even pick up the specific Moto 360 first gen. I know that it's on the fringe of a lot of people's mind, and I kind of want to differentiate this video from the other ones that are just normal reviews of either the software or the hardware. I kind of wanted to make this basically a review on whether or not you should purchase it. So I'm going to preface this video by saying I do like the device a lot. For what I use it for, it's really good. And especially if you can get this device for a sub $150 price point, it really makes sense to me. So I'm just going to go over some of the pros and cons, some of the limitations and the benefits of having an Android Wear smartwatch, and hopefully you guys will get some insight and even maybe even make your purchase decision off of this video. So first off, I have the Moto 360 right here. It's the first generation with the leather band, the black exterior with the black leather band. At first, honestly, I wouldn't say I didn't want it, but I wasn't a big fan of this color. I felt like getting the silver one with the brown Horween leather band would have been better, or even a steel band model would have been better. But I honestly do like the leather. It feels very comfortable to wear on day to day. It's not heavy, not big or bulky at all, and the color really looks good. A lot of people say black matches with everything, but it really does. I feel like I would have had a lot more problems trying to find matches with the non-black one, the silver model, than this all black edition. It comes in, like I said, leather and steel bands. It also comes in the silver and the black model. Obviously I have the black model here. But this being a watch is one of the big points is fashion. And you want it to look good on you. A lot of people are switching from much more expensive watches to a smartwatch. You're gonna want something that looks good at the same time provides you with that functionality, and I feel like the Moto 360 definitely does that. At least for me, it wasn't even really too big of a question for getting the Moto 360. That circular watch, the circular watch design in itself really stood out. That squarish style, especially of the older ones like the LG watch, just really turned me off compared to some of the newer watch faces. So I guess we're getting into the watch here, as you guys can just see, or excuse me, just saw. I got a notification. It was a Snapchat notification, and the watch, my phone received it, and then it pushed it over to the watch. One quick thing about it is since it's connected via Bluetooth, your Bluetooth on your phone has to be on constantly, which I understood. But one thing I didn't get until I had the watch was it doesn't technically show as a paired device in your Bluetooth list. Which some people might say, oh, why is that a big deal? Well, it's a big deal if you want to have your watch, which you keep on at most times. Let's say you want to pair it to a friend's speaker, or you want to pair it to a friend's car audio system, or pretty much any Bluetooth device. You can still pair to your phone, even though your watch is paired at the same time. So whatever Google did there, I'll probably do some more research on that. But to bypass having it as a connected device in your Bluetooth list really helps out, and kudos to Google for that. One of the shortcomings of it is the processing speed on it. It's a Texas OMAP processor. It's about 2 to 3 years old. It was used in some of the original Moto droids on the Verizon line, and it's good for going through most everyday tasks, but this is not even just a limitation of the processor, but a limitation of Android Wear as of now. So, for example, I'll launch the StoCard app, which is basically an application for aggregating all of your library cards and rewards cards, and basically cards just in general together. And I'll launch the app here by clicking on it, and you guys can see how long it'll take to load. I remember reading a review about Apple and them creating the first iPods. I believe, I want to say I read it on The Verge, and they were talking about how initially a man basically walked around with a brick in his hand and figured out what he would want to do with, it was either the iPhone or the iPod, figuring out what he would want it to do, because there was not a precedent set for it. So as you guys can see, the screen timed out before it even launched. But basically there wasn't a precedent set for it. So what he did was basically took it with him and figured out what day-to-day tasks, if he could create a device to take place of the brick of wood, what he would want that piece of wood to do, or basically the device to do. And that's how they generated ideas for the phone, or the iPod. I can't remember exactly which one it was. And another one of the key elements there was the value of how long it took. So basically, if whatever you're trying to get done, I believe the rule of thumb was 2 seconds. If it took longer than 2 seconds for it to do, then it wasn't practical. It's wasting more time than it's helping create by using that as a shortcut. So, just for example, with StoCard, with the app taking that long to load, there's no point in using the application. If it's going to take that long, you might as well just whip out your phone. The convenience of using your watch over your phone, by it being right there on your wrist, is kind of defeated by how long it takes for the application to load. So that's kind of what I was getting to there, and that's the same thing goes with a lot of heavy applications. Even like, for example, Google Maps takes a little while to load on the watch. A lot of the applications, of the few applications, like the 15 or so, 10 to 15 that I have installed, are pretty light, so you don't have to worry about that issue. But some of the heavier ones and the future of the platform, hopefully, they'll introduce a better way to optimize either the hardware for it, or for the applications just to be lighter and not, take as much processing power to load, like StoCard did. So basically you just swipe up to get to your notifications. I'm a heavy Snapchatter, which is a nice thing to see who's Snapchatting me. I can get all that information right there from the watch, and really notifications are pushed to my wrist. So as soon as my phone rings, basically, I can see who's calling, who's texting, who's Snapchatting, email. So basically I'm running myself, or I'm not missing nearly as many notifications as I would before. Pretty much I'm on top of everything. As soon as something happens, I can look down at my wrist and at a glance know what's going on, as opposed to before, hopefully I'd either catch the vibration in my pocket or hear the phone going off. With this, it makes it a lot more simple. Whenever it's pretty much on my wrist, I'm knowing the notifications coming through, and it's a lot more simpler to check if I thought that there was a notification that came through, and it, but I wasn't positive, than having to pull my phone out of my bag or my pocket, or take it over from the driver console in my car. I can just look at my wrist. Another shortcoming I noticed, even you guys can see here a little bit in the video, is operations. It's a little bit harder to operate the device on like a flat table, for example, which is a good thing because if it's basically, it's meant to be on your wrist. So if your wrist isn't in a natural position for you to view the device, then it's not going to operate correctly, and it's basically setting the screen to timeout after a while, so you can't, perform accidental operations on the watch, which sucks for reviews though, because it's pretty much it makes reviewing very hard to have it set flat on a table and try to do a review. Now, I did complain about the processor, but I think that might be more of an application shortcoming, or even the operating system itself, more so than the processor. The Snapdragon 400 and the newer one, with it being quad-core at a higher clock speed, will definitely help. But for the price difference, I really don't, I wouldn't say it kind of warrants spending the extra money to get it. But besides that, every day-to-day normal tasks, receiving notifications, replying to text messages, stuff like that, it works phenomenally well, even with that 1 GHz processor. And it really is a lot different from not having the watch previously. Also changing my phone, changing my music. So one of the things that I usually do when I get in my car, I plug my phone into my charger, and then I send a text message out to a few people if I'm meeting up with someone, or to let them know that, you know, I'm on my way or whatever. And then also launch music to play, you know, on the car ride, whether it's Pandora, SoundCloud, Google Play Music. With this on my wrist, it literally, I can do that as I'm pulling out of the driveway. I can just say, "Okay, Google," and launch those commands without even having to touch my phone. Basically, I'm just speaking to my watch, and it's much more convenient than before. So I really, even for that, it's real nice. And then also being able to see my music, whatever's playing, you know, the title of the track, album artwork, and then also being able to change it directly from the watch is really nice. Another positive about it, and probably one of the bigger ones, is the battery life. Battery life has been phenomenal. I haven't really run into any problems with the battery whatsoever. And again, I don't have ambient display on. I did try having that on, and I did run into a few issues. I'd probably get about maybe 8 to 10 hours worth of battery life with ambient display on, depending on the usage patterns there. And the only reason why I did do that is because I was getting such phenomenal battery with the display off, that I figured, you know, might as well try something to drain the battery a little bit more. You know, it's not hurting what I already have currently. But yeah, I would say, since I've had the watch, 98% of my days I've been able to get through and still have juice left on the watch, and with considerable amounts to spare. I would say out of that, let's say 95% or 90% of those times, I would have hours left of battery life on the device before I charged it at night. And you know, this is a new device. It's about over a year old battery, a year to 2 year old battery. And you know, still to have those many cycles left on it, it's great. With the battery, and honestly, if someone was to get this watch, I would recommend them just turning ambient display on, not only to get that phenomenal battery life, but also because ambient display, you're not really using the watch. You know, it's only comes on when the watch is positioned at a point where you can't even see, where chances are you're not seeing it. Now, it is cool. Sometimes, very rarely, it doesn't operate to that normal wrist flick to turn on, so that way you can still see what time it is. But that one, maybe 2 times daily, if that, really doesn't warrant having ambient display on in my book, and just flicking my wrist over to see the time, or pressing that side button on the right, really is a lot easier. So like I said, the battery life was phenomenal on this watch. And another thing that I don't think people take into account a lot is the fact that when you have your phone paired to it, basically your watch is only as good as your phone is. So if your phone dies, then you're not going to be able to use your watch, or it's gonna defeat some of the purpose of the watch. So you know, I found myself charging my phone twice as much as I did my watch. The battery life wise, and it also, since it's so small, it charges much faster, so the battery will get up there real quick, before even your phone would. If you're running low and need to go on a night out, an hour charge should get you, you know, a good 60% 50%, 50 to 60%, and that'll last you for, it should last you through the night, way into the morning. One of the biggest qualms that I've heard personally about the smartwatch industry is the fact that a lot of them don't have speakers, and honestly, that's not a big qualm to me. I'm not a big proponent of taking phone calls on your wrist, for one, and it's just an awkward position, and if you're talking about business application, I would hope that you're not taking 1-2 hour phone conversations on your wrist with a smartwatch. For what it does, it's good. Now, I wouldn't be mad if there's a speaker in it. It definitely would be nice, but it's not a deal breaker, and especially phone calls aren't the biggest thing. You guys can see like the Moto the Samsung Gear S2 and the LG Watch Urbane LTE version have those cell radios and also speakers built into them. And when you're on a phone call, those things only last 3-4 hours, whereas this is getting me over 12 hours and 12, sometimes 15 hours on a single charge worth of battery life. So you can see the stark difference in comparison. So it drains your battery, and even there, like the speakers aren't going to give you the greatest performance because they're a little bit tinny. I remember right here is the iPod Touch 4th generation, and one of the biggest knocks was that speaker on it, because it's so small. It was aimed to be so thin. The speaker is pretty tinny. And I just FaceTimed some of my friends recently, and I noticed how bad the speaker was, that it was very hard to hear them even at the volume all the way up. So that added bulk and definitely battery life, and then you also got to think that it's an added price. The price difference between the connected version of the Gear S2 and the normal edition of the Gear S2 is $100 more for that cellular radio and the speaker. So is it really worth $100 to you for essentially worse battery life when you're on the phone, and the speaker's not even that great. So the speaker really, in my opinion, isn't that big of a qualm. But besides that, another shortcoming that I saw is the changing of the bands. I was going to opt for a metal band, but I didn't even bother, knowing how hard it is to take these bands out. That's something that they did improve on the second generation, but the first generation is definitely a lot harder. You can even see that there's some scuff marks on the back of breakage in the glass because of how hard it is to take them out. So that's one of the disadvantages of the first generation versus the second generation. Also, pixel density. It has a slightly higher pixel density on the second generation, both models, and that's one thing that I did like about it. Not that the screen's bad by any means, but it's kind of like when you compare a 1080p screen to a 720p screen in TVs. You can't really, if you're looking at a 720p screen, the screen looks great, it's HD. But once you get that comparison between two different models, then you can see up close it's more so the improvements of the newer model versus how bad the older one is. Same thing here. The screen looks great, but when you compare it to, for example, an Apple Watch with a near 300 ppi, or the second generation with a higher PPI, you can notice a little bit more of the jagged lines. But besides that, it's still a pretty great screen. Color reproduction is great, and off-angle viewing is also great too. You guys can see there. I mean, text is still very legible, even at off angles. Other than that, that's kind of the whole video right there. To sum it up, yes, I would recommend getting a watch if you can get it for that sub $150 price point. I definitely also like that the fact that the watch is round definitely makes a big advantage over the square ones. I just think that those look terrible, and I'm personally not a big fan of them. The square ones just look like a screen strapped to your wrist, where these look more like a traditional timepiece. So especially for the fact that they're watches, you kind of want them a little bit stylish because there's something that you're going to be seeing with, as opposed to your phone. Most of the time it's in your pocket, your wrist. I've gotten having it for the past 2 months or so, or excuse me, wearing out for the past 2 months or so, I've been getting a lot of looks, people saying, oh wow, that's cool, to have it on, that they like the look of it, it's clean, and that definitely is something that I feel like I'm getting a lot of because of the circular design. If I were to have kind of a square one, it would stick out, just like this one would, probably even more because of the square design. But I definitely haven't had any negative feedback on how the look of it is, so I definitely recommend going out for a circular one. I have pretty much nothing but good things to say though about the Moto 360, especially if you can get it for that sub $150 price point. That's probably the biggest thing. Is this the value of the product? If you're spending over $150, $200, $300 for a smartwatch, then it starts to become, is it really worth it? In my opinion, no. For what it does, but if you can get something like that, keep in mind that it basically is an accessory to your phone, then yes, it does become worth it. Also, another nice thing about the Marshmallow update is that they unlock the Wi-Fi chip inside the watch. So now, even if I'm out of range with my phone, I can still be getting notifications from my phone through the Wi-Fi connection, as long as I set it up prior on my phone. So if I'm connected to the Wi-Fi in my house, they don't have to be in Bluetooth range. I can still get notifications. There's just a few things that are limited, like replacing phone calls, stuff like that. Sending text, I believe, is another thing. But besides that, like I'm saying, I definitely would recommend it. If you can get it for under $150, an Android smartwatch, particularly a circular one, and particularly even the Moto 360 first gen, I definitely would recommend it. The key things that you're going to be able to do is get notifications at a timely manner. It's going to help you get back to people. And even a guy that I spoke to before I had the watch told me, he was thinking, oh, having the watch, you're going to have your face buried in it. People are going to be all saying that you're distracted and all that. Well, I actually found myself pulling my phone out of my pocket far less with the watch on than I did having before I had the watch, because I can just check my notifications from my wrist. I can be walking and checking them, and basically just missing everything there. Whereas if I had to pull up my phone, now I'm clearly on my phone. Whereas some people might not even realize, but I could check Twitter. I could essentially have checked my Snapchat, my Twitter, text messages, and my calls all before someone even realizes that it's a smartwatch that I'm looking at. They could just think I'm looking at the time. So in that aspect of things, great buy, get it for that price, definitely recommend it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I know that this kind of dragged on a little bit, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys the best information possible, and really, for those people that are on the fringe of buying, whether or not to buy, I really hope that this helped you guys out. This is kind of my real world applications. This is my personal watch. It's not like a review unit or anything like that. So, I really hope that this helped. If there's anything else I can do to help you guys out, just leave it in the comments, and I'll try to make a video or respond to you guys in the comments about that. So if you guys could like my video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel for more great videos I'm going to keep throwing out there on the pipeline, and future coverage on the Moto 360. If there's stuff that I left out that you guys want to hear about, just let me know in the comments, and I'll try to get those videos out for you guys pretty readily. So anyways, this is me, Sean from TechDroids.com, YouTube and I appreciate you guys watching this Moto 360 overview, and I really hope that it helped you guys out, and you guys have a nice day. I'll talk to you guys in a later video. Goodbye.